Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wine and Real Estate. Welcome, Lauren. I'm really excited to have you on to learn more about you. And we've also started working together. So
Mhm.
it's a great opportunity for us to get to know each other better and for my audience as well to benefit from your services and your expertise.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's it. So could you give us a bit of an overview of what you've done, where you're from, and what's going on in your life as an investor?
Sure. I'm originally from Toronto and I moved here. Oh my gosh, it's a long time. It's over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I've lived in South Florida for that long. And I came here to search for opportunities. My ex-husband had an opportunity and we came in search of that. And I really never pursued the right career path down here. I'm a lawyer in Ontario, and at the time, I wasn't a lawyer here when we started. I became a lawyer here, and then I got my green card and got my real estate license and started dabbling in the area of international and immigration law. Why? Well, this is quite a unique story, Francois. I don't know if you know this, but I so I've been married twice. My second marriage ended in divorce, like most that end, and it happened because on the way back from our honeymoon to Thailand, my then husband was expeditiously removed, put in immigration jail, and subsequently deported on
Oh
the
my
way back from our
goodness.
honeymoon.
Wow.
So at
Ouch.
the time, I was not in the immigration field other than being in the process of getting my own green card
Yeah.
and working on visas and stuff. But that pushed me in the direction knowing that I had a calling to find a way to prevent other people from facing a similar fate. And so I most recently have put all the pieces together. I'm now the chair of the International Investment Committee of EXP Commercial. I have made my real estate license really work together with my law license on both sides of the border, law licenses, and I created a program called How to Immigrate Through Real Estate. So it's
Excellent.
become pretty famous, especially with Canadians, because first of all, I speak Canadian. And second of all, who doesn't want to invest in real estate if they can?
Yes.
So I paved the path for that.
Wow, that's excellent. I'm sorry to hear about your
It's okay.
unfortunate stories, but thankfully you're here and
Yeah,
you learned through this experience. So
that's right.
wow. So immigrating through real estate, that's an interesting concept. I know a lot of investors are looking at that, so you must be very busy.
Very busy, but, as you will have noticed, and we've only known each other, it seems like forever, but what, 10 days, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Right? But you will notice that I'm extremely diligent at following up with people and making sure that their needs are met. I don't work with a
Yes.
million people. I work with a select few people because I live, eat, and breathe their needs. I really do. And
Wow.
I go above and beyond, especially for my Canadian people, because, I get it. And somebody just said to me this morning, I'm moving my 3 kids, my dog, and my whole family. It's not just a business move, it's a family move. And I know
Yeah.
that. I understand you're leaving home, like, leaving Toronto, leaving Ottawa, leaving Montreal, leaving Vancouver, whatever. And it's a big deal. And no matter how similar our countries are, they're not that similar.
No, even if I've spent like 2 weeks at in Orlando, I'm like, "Well, I feel very Canadian now,"
Right. It's
after a few
it's
days.
it's quite amazing because, especially over COVID, I think the differences have become that much more,
Oh, yes.
clear. The way we approach things, the way the community rallies together or doesn't, just very different. There's a lot more differences than people think. And I think one of the biggest challenges people face, especially Canadians, when they're investing, is they just kind of, and you know this because you've seen it with some of your friends, I'm sure, is that people just, think, oh, I'm going to just invest with my personal name or set up an LLC or do this or do that. And they don't bother to get tax advice or legal advice. And they just go online and they say, I can do it for 300 bucks. It's not that simple. And if
No.
you do that, you're going to end up paying the CRA or the IRS or somebody dearly for that. Somebody said the other day in a group, I'm the attorney in this group, and he said, "Well, why should we pay professionals?" Well, I'd rather pay the it was in the UK group. I'd rather pay the British tax authority. And I'm like, first of
What?
all, if you pay professionals, you might pay like 10, 20,000. If you pay the tax guy, you're going to pay a heck of a lot more than that.
Oh my goodness, yes. And that's one of the biggest expenses we have is income tax. So
Absolutely.
why not do proper preparation and set up the right structure? So for a Canadian like me, I'm born, raised in Canada. It's a fairly simple thing. I have some friends that are American that are now permanent residents of Canada. So for them, I find investing in the US seems a little more tricky because
Yeah.
they don't really have dual citizenship, and it gets messy. But for a simple situation like mine, what's the best route to invest? I get asked all the time. Let's say I'll use my scenario. I'm buying one or two properties in Orlando, Florida, and what should I set up?
Well, as you know, it's not one size fits all. Okay. And your circumstances, because you have interests in other states as well, and you're not planning to move,
No,
your
that's it.
situation is going to be a little different than your buddy next door who might want to get a visa at some point and become a US taxpayer.
Okay.
So I bring in, it's funny because my tax guy is, I think you know, is from Ottawa. He's living here in Boca. He just closed on his house like 3 weeks ago. We took him for
Cool.
dinner on Saturday night, and, he the I don't make a move without him because taxes are taxes and, legal repercussions or liability are the 2 biggest issues that come up.
Yes.
So, I understand the legal liability, however, as you know, I also bring in my team of experts, even on the legal side, because each state has different rules and different requirements. So what my role is to be your trusted advisor, your right hand, your partner, essentially, whether it's financial or not. I am your partner helping you achieve your goals in the US, whatever those goals may be. And we don't just say, okay, let's just look at, one or two short-term rentals and buy them and that's it. We try to look at what the implications of that are and what
Yeah.
is your long-term goal because you have a bigger picture in mind. Some people just want to buy a property to have an investment property. So every single client and person is different.
Yeah, like
Generally,
my no, absolutely. That's so right. I didn't think about it, but like you said, I have interest. I have some properties in Michigan, now in Florida. I don't have intention of moving to United States. I don't mind spending a month or two, but I will miss the snow. I have to admit it. I can't wait for my hot tub to be surrounded with snow and jump in it and all that. So part of my lifestyle, but I do enjoy the south and warmer climate. But where I was going with this, it's important, like you said, the states are very different. So just like in Canada, I own properties in different provinces, and some of the laws are a little surprising. So even more so in a different country.
mhm.
Is it similar to Canada? Like in Canada, you can have a corporation, register it in various provinces. In the States, can you have a corporation that's registered in different states, or should
You
you start a
can,
new corp?
you can, but that's not usually the recommended course of action. So
Okay,
as you know, most Canadians, and this is not legal advice, okay, this is just a generalization. Most
sure.
Canadians set up a limited partnership model, and the limited partnership is owned by either the Canadian individuals or a Canadian entity, right? And that's the general partner in the limited partnership. That limited partnership then is the managing member or the member of the limited liability companies generally that in turn
Yes.
own the real estate, okay? Now, that limited partnership could be a Florida limited partnership and have baby LLCs under it, but the ideal is you should have an LP in each state in which you're doing business. So
Okay.
you could have a parent LP, but then you have a baby LP LLC structure in each state. That's generally what happens. But again, if you're just buying one property in each of two states, you may not need that. You may just need to do a foreign authority, a foreign authorization, foreign entity authorization in that state. It really depends, and each state does have different rules. So Nevada is going to be different than California. Is going to be different than Florida.
Okay. Very good to know. Yeah, and like for taxes and stuff, are there better states? Like here we have some provinces like Quebec. If you go there, you have to be careful because you get Revenu Quebec.
Mhm.
But in the States, I know California also has the civil code, which is interesting, a little bit similar to Quebec for rules and laws. But Florida, I think, is quite simple, or
Well, Florida is simple, and I think you're thinking of Louisiana, that has
Louisiana.
the civil code. California is just a nightmare for
That's what I've been told. It's like
yeah,
Quebec.
yeah,
So,
it's very challenging. They have different rules that their costs are extremely high even to maintain a corp there.
oh
So a
wow.
lot of clients that wanna do business there will set up an entity in Nevada or even Florida. I have a client now that has a Florida entity, and they're doing a foreign entity authorization in California to do business there. Texas is a great state, Wyoming in terms of taxes. Texas, Wyoming, Florida's good. Delaware, obviously, everybody knows about Delaware.
Yes,
But
the
it
loopholes.
again, it really depends on where you want to invest and how much you're investing and how many properties you're buying. And the rule of thumb, and this is again just a rule of thumb, is that you don't want to have more than 500,000 in any one entity,
Okay,
500,000 in assets. Now, obviously, if you're buying a multifamily property and it's 2
don't have a
million,
choice.
right? That's that. But if you're buying properties in Michigan or Ohio, the prices are so low, 50, 60,
Yeah.
70,000, you could have 6 or 8 properties in one LLC, depending on the best structure for you.
And what if when they appreciate? I know appreciation is not as high as like we've seen in Canada, like prices doubling, tripling over 2 years. What if, yeah, what if your portfolio grows? Then can you easily separate properties out, or
Well, you
do
could
you just
sell them back or assign them, or depending again on the state and how the structure is set up.
okay,
There are ways to, perhaps keep the money in the US and not have to pay taxes on it, depending on how your structure is set up again. But again, it's also important to look at the bigger picture, because if you want to get a visa at any point in the future to
it's a
live and
very
work in
different
the
setup?
US, right, you need to keep that in mind. And it's always about a strategy. Now, I have a client who came to me and said, I don't want to be in the US. And 3 weeks later said, I do want to be in the US.
Too late.
Well, no, the good thing is it wasn't too late, because we usually set up a structure that has enough flexibility to allow
Okay,
that. Because with the LP/LLC model, there is that level of flexibility. If you're moving right away to the US, or if you're not investing in real estate but rather a business, you might be able to just get away with an LLC and not need the LP. The LP is usually needed when there's real estate involved.
okay, because there's like tangible assets and all that.
Correct.
What about the 1031 exchange? I hear
Yeah.
lots about it.
So
Is it
1031 is
something?
awesome. 1031 is basically when you take an investment property and you transfer it to a like in kind investment property of equal or greater value. You identify it within 45 days, and you make the transfer or close on the new purchase within 6 months. Okay.
Okay.
Now, there are other options available, like this thing called a deferred sales trust and this thing
Hmm.
called a Delaware statutory trust, that allow you to pool resources or defer your capital gains beyond the 6 months.
Oh, wow.
However, for Canadians that are staying in Canada, the CRA doesn't recognize
No.
1031s. So there are some creative ways that people say can work, but generally speaking, it's anybody can anybody can use the 1031. Okay, anybody can take advantage of 1031 in the US. What
Yeah,
happens to you in your home country is a whole other story. And
that's
that's
it.
where the CRA becomes problematic. It's not problematic in Colombia or Mexico or France or Brazil, but Canada, because we have Canadians, so many investors into the US, and because the CRA is the CRA.
Yeah, they gotta pay for those bills and
Yep,
those, useless trains like we have in Ottawa, and anyway, we're not gonna get into that, but there's
exactly.
some
No
pros and
politics
cons.
today.
Yes, pros and cons. So where are you seeing opportunities, Lauren, for investments? So let's say I'll use a very typical example. I have $100,000. I could spend about 500,000 on a property. What do you suggest? Where should I look for the best cash flow?
And again, this is going to depend on what your goals are, because
Yeah.
there's two things. One is cash flow and one is upside, right? And there's in South Florida right now, the market is beyond. It's like Toronto. It's crazy, out of control. 49 offers. We just won out last week.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've never seen it like this here. On the other hand, in a place like Detroit or Columbus, you're not going to have that. Because your price point is that much lower. Now, if you want to leverage your money or you want a joint venture, your 100,000 is going to be used differently than it would if you want to, let's say, buy an investment property and use it for your own purposes for potentially vacations, have cash flow and have passive income. Because
Yeah.
then I'm going to recommend, you know where, Orlando. In Orlando, we have lots of pre-construction opportunities as well as existing rehabs and other opportunities that we're looking at. And they are available at different price points. $500,000 with 100,000 down and a $400,000 mortgage is attainable. I mean, I have a partner, I don't know if I've introduced them to you yet, but they fund non-owner occupied Canadian investors in US real estate. At the moment, not funding short-term rentals, but their underwriter is actually working on that right now. But other
Okay.
than that, it's a great rate, and it's based on you having an LLC or an LP in the US. It's not based on you don't need a social security. It's specifically for Canadians, Brits, Israelis, and Australians investing in the US. So there's lots of options available for Canadians investing in the US that, fund that are like that give you capital and funding and the opportunity to build something. And again, your 100,000 right now, probably I would say to if you could possibly buy two different types of properties, maybe one new construction and one or two existing buildings that maybe you want to rehab if you want to work with somebody that's been there and done that, like yourself, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, excellent. What if I have 300,000?
we're going to multiply that by three.
There you
No,
go.
so I would say if I was to take my 300,000 at the moment, I would personally buy three, but I have a different goal, right? So personally, I would buy three of the new construction opportunities in Orlando just because I see so much upside in demand and I
Yeah.
see them flying like hotcakes. Um, if my goal was to be a rehabber or a flipper, that's not going to be the case. Now,
No, that's very different. Yeah.
right. Now, if you want to get a visa, you're never going to get a visa from flipping, not never. You're not going to get a visa
Hardly.
from flipping a couple of properties. It's going to be 40 or 50.
Oh,
Okay. And
wow.
that's the only way because the visa is based on running a business. And
Okay.
your goal is to have passive income.
Yeah.
They counter each other, right?
That's it. It's a non-business.
Correct.
Yeah,
You don't want to be running a business. You want to have recurring residual income and have a check coming in and you not having to think.
that's it.
That has to transition to a business in order to qualify for a visa, which is not impossible. But if you're if you're investing, let's say, into a syndicate, right,
Yeah,
which a lot of people have these syndicates or REITs right now, that's a passive investment. If you run the REIT or the syndicate, you might qualify because you're
yes.
running a business. But if all you are is an investor of 10, 20, 50, 100,000, you're not going to.
No, no, it makes sense. I mean, okay, cool. So you're seeing opportunities there. You mentioned some other kind of northern states where there's some interesting things going on.
There's
Do
lots
you
of
have
places. I mean, there's Indianapolis, there's Detroit, Columbus, and Cincinnati. All over Ohio is always good. Arkansas, there's places in
okay.
Texas. If you're interested in commercial and multifamily, I would say talk to me about Brownsville, which is where they're putting the new Tesla plant. That's hot.
Oh,
Okay. To be honest with you, as the chair of the International Investment Committee, I have access to all kinds of commercial partners that deal with tons of multifamily assets at different price points. So it's really just a matter of knowing the right person and getting in at the right time.
yeah.
Because and working with the right professionals is super important because too many people try to do their own searching and offering and structuring, and you know what happens at the end of the day? You might find one deal, but what about the four that fall apart because you
That's
didn't have
it.
somebody?
That's huge. I mean, you're really missing out. I totally agree with your statement there. Setting up the right team. That's what I've done in Canada and multiple markets, is getting to know the movers and the shakers and the ones that know the right deals. And
Yep.
sometimes it's not always the cheapest. Like, let's
No,
be honest. you pay, but you also get results. So I
Mhm.
don't care how much it costs. If I get results, I'm willing to pay. Like, you have to think differently. A lot of people are employees and they're
Yeah.
moving from employees to investor. That's a big shift in mindset. Like, if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't already have your own business, then you have to change the way you think and invest. So I like talking with quality people like yourself, Lauren.
Thank
That's
you.
great. And everybody you've introduced me so far has been extremely professional. And you know people all over the world, it seems. So
I
that's
really
really
do.
excellent.
I've been in this space for longer than I care to remember. So yes, I have
You were
some
5
really
years
great
old when you started.
yeah, I wish. So, but you know, the truth is that it's fun for me. It's fun for me to be involved in these aspects and be able to pave a path to success because at the end of the day, I see too many people faltering because they just weren't willing to spend a few dollars. And
Oh
look, the
no.
truth is, Francois, I'm no more expensive than the next person. The
No.
difference between me and them is that I package everything. Everything, like you come to me, you don't have to think. If you need a structure set up, if you need a visa, if you need a business plan, if you need the real estate investment, if you need a strategy, whatever the case may be, I package it. And everybody, most of my professionals work under me once we work as a package. So
That's excellent.
it's a win-win. And this way I can make sure that your interests are protected, like because they're accountable to me.
Yeah.
And I'm a
Oh, that's
little bit
excellent.
tough.
Yeah, I have heard that you can be tough. So there you go. That's good. We do want tough, especially when
Uh-oh, who did
negotiating
you
a
hear
deal.
that from?
I won't mention my
Oh,
sources.
no.
I have to protect them. Just kidding. But anyway, that's great. So what's next for you? Like, I think you're going on a nice trip soon. And what are you planning for 2022?
So I think 2022 is definitely going to be a big year for us in terms of really helping people get their real estate investment structures in place, getting people that want to come into Florida and other warm places and literally all over the country. I have one person moving to Michigan
Okay.
because that's where her daughter is. So, okay, great. So it doesn't matter where you want to go. I'll pave the path for you to get there. And just continuing to build these relationships and become the go to, especially for Canadians that are looking to invest across borders and build their infrastructure and opportunities all over the world for that matter.
Yeah, that's kind of my goal. That's why I'm like, the US does sound very interesting, but I also want to be in Costa Rica and Portugal and maybe France and other places. So why not be a citizen of the world?
Yeah,
But also, again, the opportunities in Florida. You mentioned pre-construction. What are timelines? Because in Canada, we forget about it. But when you buy pre-construction, it could be like 2 years down the road because there's winter. But you don't get winters.
no,
So, well, you do, but it's not cold. So construction is much shorter. Pre-construction is that
yeah,
more like 6 months to a year instead
yeah.
of 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
We have occupancy dates of September of
Wow.
2022 for projects that are people are buying into now.
Okay, so that it's fairly quick. I mean, wow, because there's no basements either, so
No
there's
basement,
no digging like 6 feet or more, and
right.
no frost, and it's a lot nicer. What about hurricanes? That's a question I get a lot from people. Is in Florida, I find Orlando, I think it's less prone to hurricanes, more
Absolutely, because
central.
you're away from the coast.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've lived through a few hurricanes, but I wasn't here for Andrew, so, they're not fun,
No.
but it's a little different than a blizzard, a lot different, but because you can prepare for a hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Sometimes
usually know a few
over-prepare.
days ahead.
Like, you get all the water and you do your windows, you know, I have impact windows, so to if it was me, I will always have impact windows because I don't wanna depending, if I'm renting and especially if I'm doing an investment property in Orlando, I may not need that, shutters is probably fine, but for me, I live here, so
Yeah.
that is my peace of mind, and that was the first thing I did when I moved into this house 'cause they were shutters or something, and I was like, "Nope, that's not gonna work for me."
No, to feel safe and all that. So
Yeah, and you
that's
get a
great.
generator and you just do what you need to do. I mean, these are expenses of living in Florida, just like a snowblower is an expense of living in Canada, right? I mean, what do you want to do? Shovel snow all day, every day? I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's not cheap snow removal like Ottawa. It's not cheap really if you think about it, and all the salt and the wear and tear on the house as well every
Hmm.
year, like hot, cold, turning the furnace on and off. So it's similar down south. You have other issues. I heard as well if you're on the coast, the salt from the sea does do a nice job on buildings. So
Yeah, and on
you
your
have to be
car.
careful. What are like maintenance kind of hazards or things we don't think about? Like, are there more termites because it's warm or
Yeah, you've got a lot of that, a lot of mold, a lot of
mold? Okay.
mold, water damage, um, ceiling water damage, seeping water. There's a lot of water.
Yeah.
So it's just different. It's just different, uh, different needs, different demands, different responsibilities, different inspections. Everything is just different. You've got AC and you don't have heat.
Yeah.
So what I remember when I was first working here, and we were in this beautiful, beautiful brand new building, and it was really cold by Florida standards. And I was wearing my leather jacket, and I said to my then boss, I said, "Oh no, 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 that's not true." I went into the management office, and they said, "How? Why is there? Is there heat?
Don't turn
It's
the heat
freezing."
on.
There's no furnace, they said. Or as they said, "What's a furnace?" or something, and I was like, "What? What?" So
Wow. Okay. But I did stay at a few places and they had like kind of a heat pump so it could heat somewhat. I mean, it's not
in
a furnace
Orlando, yeah.
in Orlando. Yeah.
Yeah, that won't be in South Florida. In Orlando, it's
Okay.
a little different because the temperatures go about 20 degrees cooler than here, about
Oh,
10,
okay. So
8,
there's
8
that much
degrees
of a
Celsius.
difference.
Yeah, it could be in the winter time.
Okay. Yeah, because they had some heat. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was there.
Yeah.
And it was needed. It went down to 5 degrees Celsius or
See?
0 that night. So it was kind of chilly.
It can be very cold. I mean, not often, but
No, that's possible.
yeah. We're
Cool.
not going skating on the Rideau Canal, let's just say.
No, I hope not. I would I'd be very cold here if it's that cold in Florida.
Yes, very cold. Yeah.
Excellent. So if people want to get a hold of you, Lauren, what's the best way to communicate with
So
you?
I'm going to
And
share a few gifts with you in our chat that you can share with your tribe, including
okay.
how to invest in real estate across borders, 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. I am just rebuilding my brand around investing across borders, and I have a podcast called Investing Across Borders. So you can find me at investingacrossborders.net, or you can find me pretty much anywhere investing across borders. I have a group called Canadians Invest and Immigrate in the US on Facebook, which
Hmm.
I think, Francois, you're a part of. And if you're not, you definitely need to join. And I'll give you the link to that also. And I'm everywhere. I have a great YouTube channel with all of my podcasts and my webinars all in one place. Investing Across Borders on YouTube, and happy to set up consults. I'll offer anybody that comes through you a discounted consult, and happy
Ooh.
to help you create your strategy and make that investment in the US, and build something great with Francois' help.
Excellent. That's great. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited about what's next, and we'll have to update the listeners on what I bought through
Absolutely, that
you.
would be awesome.
And yeah, no, I really want to document it. So when we're done here, we should talk for a few minutes about strategy and what's my next move because I am itching to buy.
Okay.
I sold a property last week. Usually I buy or sell something every week or two.
Oh,
So
nice.
I took a bit of a break. I took a 6 week break and now I need to do something.
Well, you don't have to push us too hard. We'll get back on that right away.
Perfect. So it's been a pleasure, Lauren.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have final words of advice or something else you want to
Don't
share.
do this alone. Whatever you do, if you find something that looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. But reach out to professionals to help you, both on the real estate, all on the real estate, the legal, and the tax sides. Because
Yes.
without those professionals in place, you're going to be compromising not only the integrity of your investment, but the integrity of your overall plan.
Wow, yeah, for the future and
Mhm.
years to come. I mean, the impact can be huge. So it's very important to have experts like Lauren on your team and Lauren's team as well. So
Thank
thank
you.
you. It was a pleasure.
A pleasure always, Francois. I think we're going to do a lot of fun stuff together.
I hope so. Thank you.